Hi, my name is Beth, and you're listening to the Canna Fitness and Nutrition Podcast, where we are hanging out at the intersection of fitness, nutrition, and cannabis. Thank you so much for pressing play today. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Beth, your personal trainer and cannabis educator. And if you're coming back, then thanks for coming back. I hope that this is helpful. Today, we are going to talk about the holidays. The holidays. This week is Thanksgiving, if you're not aware, or if you don't live in the US for some reason. I'm not sure if my reach is that far. And right after that, we have the rest of them, right? And it doesn't even matter what you celebrate because pretty much everyone celebrates Thanksgiving. And then every culture has a form of celebration in the winter, even just as simple as year end, right? That always turns into a celebration. That's, winter solstice you can celebrate, just end of year, New Year's itself, if that's all you celebrate, is a celebration, right? And it comes on the heels of Thanksgiving, which is the biggest eating holiday of the year. And if you're listening to this, then you probably have related to me in the past where we just want to be in good shape and stay that way. And we tend to get frustrated when things like Thanksgiving and holidays come up because now you feel torn between wanting to be in good shape and feel good and have your clothes fit and, be able to attend your gym classes that you enjoy on a regular basis and not get thrown off by the demands of this time of year, even though this time of year brings its own responsibilities and struggles and pressure, right? So we're going to talk about that and how we manage this because every year, as you know, I'm a personal trainer and I've been doing that for almost 20 years. So every year at this time is like my clients just brace. And I used to too, but they just brace for what feels like inevitable frustration and inevitable weight gain and inevitable hangovers. And there's just this giant sense of bracing for the worst and trying to just hold on and survive. And in the last few years, I've been doing a lot of challenges this time of year. I've been really trying to help you survive. But the more I thought about it is just kind of was perpetuating that survival mode. And honestly, it was intimating that you could do it all if you really tried. And that's not the message that I want to send anymore because you don't want to do it all. You can't do it all. And it's impossible for us to try to do it all, right? Can we do better? Yeah, absolutely, right? I'm not saying give it up. I'm not saying just, say F it and, just dive into the candy because why? You're just going to have to start over again in January. No, I'm not saying that. We're not going into that mentality, but it doesn't have to be all or nothing. Again, if you follow me on social media and you listen to my podcast, you probably know that one of the things that we work on is getting away from the all or nothing perspective. So it doesn't have to be either all in or not at all in, right? And I don't want to give you a list of 20 things to check off every day just so you can say you're either all in or not at all in, right? I want you and myself to learn how to live in the middle. And that's what I've been practicing for the past X number of years is I'm not even sure when I'll pinpoint it. I'll find it and I'll let you know. I'll get back to you when I started finding this middle ground because it is entirely possible to live in the middle, to do the best you can without and be successful, feel successful and look successful, right? Because it does matter how our clothes fit. then it is possible to do that without checking all the boxes. Because, if every day you're trying to sleep 7 to 9 hours, well, you know what? You can miss a bunch of those days and only sleep 6 and still feel fine and still have your pants fit. It doesn't have to be every day you eat 4 fruits and vegetables. Again, I love that as a challenge and I love it as a goal. But if you don't, it's not going to be the end of the world, right? So I really want to get away from this all or nothing mentality. And that's what this is about. So, with that long explanation, let's talk. I want to talk about Thanksgiving first, because if you're like me, you'll probably relate to this to some degree, right? Where I feel like I was always spending Thanksgiving on a tightrope. Like I was trying to make sure I could be perfect in my fitness, but also I was going to go completely overboard in the same day. And that's a terrible way to kind of live your life, where you just balance trying to find, you want to stay on one side, really fearing the other side. So for example, I would always try to make sure I got in a workout because I knew I'd overindulge. So I was so afraid of that I couldn't skip a workout beforehand, right? So the workout shouldn't be all or nothing. It doesn't have to replace the food. Okay, let me just continue before I go down another spiral. Saving room, right? Again, this one makes me cringe because everybody does this. Everybody says, "Oh, I'm going to save room. I'm going to save room." Okay, so that's an example of all or nothing. So either you can't have lunch and breakfast because you're going to eat so much later. Like you're trying to avoid the thing you want to avoid. Right? So you want to be able to live in the middle there, where you don't need to save room, but you're also not afraid to be overindulging, right? I just felt pressure from myself, let's be honest, we put pressure on ourselves to either be all good because I was so afraid of going off track, even though off track happened every time, and this was just a vicious cycle. But here's the truth, right? You can find the middle. So let's talk about that. Let's paint that picture. Imagine you're sitting down at Thanksgiving and you're actually just there, hanging out with your people, right? Whoever that is for you, hanging out with your people. You're not scanning the food and mentally calculating your macros, right? You're not like, "Oh, well, if I have the potatoes, then maybe I shouldn't have a roll," right? You don't need to do that. You're not trying to guess how many sticks of butter are in the green bean casserole, right? You're not doing mental math to try to figure out, well, if I skip the potatoes, then I can have pie and like bargain with yourself, right? Or the whole, "Oh, well, this looks really good, so I'll just be good tomorrow." Or I'll just make it up on Monday. Or you know what? Let's just take the weekend off from eating good and then we'll get back on eating good on Monday. Again, why does it have to be one or the other? Why can't there be a middle ground, right? So this is where we're at. I'm done with this. I'm done with that mentality. Again, it's starting to make me really cringe when people hear me say it. So I'm super passionate about it. And I'm sure that's coming across as I talk. But this is what we don't want to do anymore, right? We don't want to plan what we're going to eat on Thanksgiving in terms of, "Oh, well, okay, I'm going to have the potatoes, but not the roll, and only a little bit of stuffing." And, you're not going to plan it out, right? You don't need to plan it. You can live in the moment and you can have a little bit of everything, even if it throws your macros off for a day, right? Because I want you to enjoy the food and taste the food. And then again, we'll get to the fullness part, but we're just going to choose food based on pleasure, right? If you don't like green beans, don't eat the green bean casserole. And I don't care if your aunt is offended. Don't force yourself to do something. You could try it, but don't force yourself to do something. Don't be a martyr. Don't sacrifice just to make other people happy too. That's a whole nother thing. But anyway, we're not planning out what we're eating to the nth degree. Yes, you want to try to eat something green. Try to eat a vegetable, right? Definitely, protein. Your protein is always a good thing to prioritize. Your fiber is a good thing to prioritize. But at the end of the day, this is just one meal. And it matters way more what you do all the other 364 days and meals around this one meal, that you don't need to really plan it out that hard, right? And we're going to talk more about that. We're done trying to burn it off with extra workouts. You know what? If you don't have time to work out on Thanksgiving morning because you're so busy cooking, that's okay. It's not the end of the world. What you do that morning is not going to directly burn that meal. That's not how that works. It's just, that's not at all how that works. Yes, you want to be consistently working out. Yes, you want to do it as often as you get a chance to. But if you're so busy, don't get up at 4 a.m. just to go work out just because it's Thanksgiving, right? And that being said, we don't need to have extra hard workouts on Friday to burn it off, or on Saturday, or on Sunday, or on Monday. Is it going to feel fantastic to move and sweat if you did indulge a little much? Then yeah, it's going to feel fantastic. But it feels good every day. And it should feel good every day. But we're done burning it off. We're done working extra hard, right? No more. We're done saying screw it and stuffing our faces, right? We're stuffing our faces. The reason we stuff our faces is not because we're hungry, right? It's a consequence of restriction. When you say you can't have when you say you can't have something, you want more of it, right? Of course. So when you've been telling yourself you shouldn't eat stuffing for the last week, well then as soon as it's in front of you, you're going to go crazy on the stuffing because you have been telling yourself you can't have it, and you're going to have a F it moment, a fuck it moment, and you're going to eat all of it, right? That's what happens when you restrict. It's simple psychology, right? You're not going to do it to make other people happy, right? Because just because your mother-in-law made your favorite pie doesn't mean you have to have thirds. Have some. Be appreciative. Be grateful. Enjoy what you can, and then say, thanks, I'm good. You don't need to have more to prove how much you like something, right? Your word, if you're being honest, your word's enough. Tell people you appreciate them and the effort they put into it. That's going to go way further. Honestly, it should go way further when you say something with genuinely to someone than showing them by eating thirds and stuffing your face full. That does not equate. It should not, right? Anyway, moving on. And we're not keeping eating just because everyone else is, right? Because you're trying to fit in, right? Fitting in when everyone else is trying to eat so much that they have to unbutton their pants, you don't need to fit in with that, right? Just because everyone else is doing it doesn't mean you have to do it too. And trust me, I know that that's a hard one because everyone around you is eating. And when you're not eating and everyone else is, it's, again, basic psychology. Your brain is going, I'm missing out. Your brain, you have to tell your brain to settle down. You've had plenty of food. If your stomach is full and you have had enough, and your brain at one point said, that's good, I'm enough, but everyone around you is still eating and you feel like you're missing out, that is just your brain. That is a simple emotion that's going to come and then it's going to go. And you know what's going to happen is everyone else at the table is going to have to unbutton their pants and they're going to be reaching for the Tums and be uncomfortable, and you're not. and then it's going to be that much better. So, so we're done with that. We're done with that. And again, we're done trying to erase it. We're done trying to erase the quote unquote damage. We're not eating less later. I mean, eat it till you as much as you need, but you don't purposefully, oh, I'm just going to have a cracker. You know, if you're hungry, eat. If you're not hungry, don't. You're not going to, again, punish yourself with an extra long run or taking 2 classes at the gym instead of 1, or, all these things that we do to secretly try to work harder, right? Nope, we are done with that. Because let's be honest, we don't want to do that, right? All these pressures we're putting on ourselves. None of this is necessary, right? This pressure, where is it coming from? That's something that you would want to think about a little bit, right? Is where does that pressure come from? And once you realize that it's coming from yourself, it becomes obvious. And then you can start to see it. But let me give you some clues, right? Because you may not recognize it yet. So here's some clues. You setting up for Christmas, let's say, okay, right? You're decorating for Christmas, you're hanging up put the garland out, you're making cookies, you're got the holiday music on, and you're trying to create this fun atmosphere for everyone, but really, your partner's checked out, they're not really feeling it, so they're scrolling on their phones, and the animals are being annoying. A couple of the dogs are asleep. A couple of them are playing, chewing bones. Nobody's really paying attention to you. Your friends didn't want to come over. Your kids are busy or whatever. So it just doesn't feel fun. You're not actually enjoying it. You're doing it because you have to. You're doing it because it's time to do that. That you actually would rather just sit on the couch and scroll like your partner. That's a clue. That's a clue that maybe it's time to move into something different. Or maybe you having people over, right? And you just run around like chicken with your head cut off, right? And you're like, okay, as soon as all this is over, as soon as they're gone, then I can finally sit down and I can finally rest, right? But after they leave, you've got to run around. You got to do all the dishes, and then the floor is dirty, so you got to scrub the floor, and then you got to put everything away in Tupperwares, and you got to organize it by color, and you got to the other floor needs to be vacuumed, and then you know what? Oh, I meant to do this, and then you know what? I should really write thank you notes to everyone for coming. So why don't I sit down and write everyone a personalized thank you note, and then I could rest, right? But what really happens after all that is now you're dead. You collapse, right? You're exhausted because you keep creating more and more things for you to do instead of just enjoying. Especially if you ran around like a chicken with your head cut off to get things ready, well then afterwards just sit down. The dishes aren't going anywhere. They can make it done tomorrow. Sit down, enjoy yourself with your friends and make the memory and not just force yourself to keep checking things off. If you're tired, you're tired. You can do it tomorrow. But what about the cannabis conversation, right? Where, maybe you took a gummy and everyone's questioning you. Oh, well, why don't you have some wine? Why don't you have some more wine? Why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? Oh, are you no fun now? Or, and you want to be the one that is like, I don't really want to drink. I don't want to have a hangover and I don't want to feel crappy. So I just took a gummy, right? How hard is that conversation, right? Well, this is where we are. We are choosing comfort. We are choosing to pay attention to our bodies instead. So what you're doing is when you start to notice the uncomfortable conversations, the uncomfortable situations, And that lack of like something's missing. Like this isn't fun anymore. This somewhere along the line this stopped being fun and started being work, and I'm tired of just going all the time. If that's what you're starting to feel, then you're in the right place, because that's what the focus of my one-on-one coaching is during this season, is doing things that your body wants to do, that feels good in your body. What that really is your nervous system, and be feeling safe, having calm and peace in your nervous system, right? Because so many of us are stuck in what they call fight or flight response, right? Which you may be seeing a lot of on social media lately, but because it's true, right? We have high cortisol, which we know is preventing us from losing weight, so we don't want that. You're in fight or flight, which means that you are not calm. It means your nervous system is on high alert. And because it's on high alert and you're in fight or flight, you can't feel joy. You can't feel pleasure. But here's the deal. You have to get back into your body in order to calm your nervous system, find the joy, and make these changes. Cannabis is how, excuse me, cannabis is how I get back into my body. There are a lot of ways that you can get back into your body, right? It requires stillness, it requires presence, it requires putting the phone down, it requires quiet, and it requires no distractions. So you have to get back into your body. I love cannabis for that, but you can exercise is a great way to get back into your body, right? Again, put your phone down, leave it at home, whatever. Don't sit on the machines at the gym and look at your phone. This is more like go on a walk outside, take a class on your Peloton, go to a Zumba class, move your body, go to a yoga class, go take Pilates. Excuse me. Doing things with your body. That's why exercise is so powerful, because it literally calms your nervous system, changes your state. Do something, new movement. Breath work, I can do a whole episode on breath work, but that's a way to get back into your body. Meditation, I know that's hard for people like us, but meditation. Again, I love cannabis for that because it really connects to your mind and your body. So it's a great way to get back into your body. But there are a lot of ways to get back into your body. And that's the real secret to getting back on, to staying, we'll quote unquote, on track during the holidays, right? But also not putting that much pressure on ourselves, right? And here's the result. Number one, I stop when I'm satisfied. I am very in touch with my stomach sensations because I've been practicing that, tuning into that part of my body for quite a few years now. And I stop when I'm full. I stop when I'm satisfied. I don't explain it. Nobody needs to know. It's my body. I know when I'm done. And that's that. That's all it is. And I listen to that, I honor it, and that works great. I stay grounded, right? It's really easy in these instances to check out. And you can check out with cannabis. You can take too much. Absolutely. You can be high as a kite and just checked out. That's possible. You can drink. That's possible. You can overeat. That's possible too, right? All those are ways to check out. I like cannabis in low doses where I am completely grounded. That's what feels best for me, because that's the place that I can still feel joy. And that works for me. But again, there are lots of ways to ground yourself. Number 3, I prioritize nourishment in every form, meaning I say yes to movie night, right? I say yes to watching Elf with the dogs and staying in on a cozy night instead of going to a happy hour, or instead of, a cookie baking marathon, right? I choose the things that make me feel good, right? I nourish in my mental health. I eat regular meals and regular food. My on Thanksgiving, I eat breakfast. I also eat lunch. Yeah, because I don't like going into meals starving, because I know that if I go into a meal starving, I'm going to overeat, because that's just, again, basic psychology, right? So when you feel restricted, when you're, i.e., hungry, then you're going to overcompensate, i.e., overeat. Um, so yeah, I eat regular meals. I eat regular meals kind of all day, every day, just even on holidays, and I just appreciate the specialness of the food that's available. Is more fun, right? And I stay hydrated. I stay hydrated. I constantly stay hydrated. It's a priority for me. I'm not the best at it, but it's a priority all day, every day. It's not something that I go without. If I'm traveling, I make it a priority. If I'm having a busy day, I make it a priority. It's always a priority, let's say. And I let enough be my guide. So I am learning to live in the middle. We talked about the all or nothing at the beginning. I am learning to live in the middle. Life is not all or nothing. Most things aren't, right? At least in my world, I'm not an accountant. If I was an accountant, things might be a little more all or nothing than they are for me. Anyway, sorry, that just came to my mind. So it's just learning to live in the middle, which is in moderation, which I know is so cliche. I even cringe when I say that sometimes, but that is what we're doing. We're living in moderation. And we're living in moderation with what we eat. We're living in moderation with how we move. We're living in moderation with our cannabis. That is Cannafit. So I hope that you enjoyed this. If you did, if you're like, oh my gosh, I agree with all of this, then you are totally in the right place, because this is what Cannafit's all about, and this is my passion. So I hope that it was helpful. If you think someone you know might also find this helpful, then I would love it if you could share, because that's kind of the best way to get the message out to other people. I am always reachable at beth@cannafitnessnutrition.com, and I hang out mostly on Instagram, where I'm Beth_Canna_Fitness_Nutrition. So thank you so much for listening to me go on and on. And if you're still here, thank you double, and I'll see you next time.